Continuing with the topic of sin, in this video I want to speak about the judgment. This is one of the cornerstones of Christianity, the idea that there is a judgment of heaven that God is gonna judge us depending on our actions. If we follow the law and so on, we're gonna go to heaven and pass through the gates. If we don't, we're gonna be condemned to hell, and so on. This is the main idea of the Christian dogmatic narrative. Of course, a lot of people, throughout rationality and throughout waking up to different ideas and different religions and different customs, they have realized that this is a very backwards kind of thinking, and this is a very tyrannical way of thinking, and it does not represent what could be a higher intelligence. It represents an egotistical God who is willing to punish anyone who does not conform to his ideas. It's a very, as I've said before, it's a very childish profile. It's a very childish psychological profile filled with ego. And there's got to be something wrong about this interpretation. Of course, this was a great tool in the Middle Ages for controlling people, this fear of hell, given the judgment. But we do get this idea of the judgment from some of the scriptures, and as I was speaking in last video, referring to going a little bit deeper into what Jesus thought about sin and conceived about sin, we can see that sin was something else for Jesus. It was about the core constitution about a man. It was the thoughts, their words, their actions, and this is what he said. Whatever is within you is gonna come out as one of those things. I do understand that this idea might be very different to what we understand as a sin, quote unquote, but going with this rationale would tie the idea of that we really have in the scriptures about sin with some other religions like Buddhism, where they had the concept of karmic seeds, where karma is not the stereotypical Western cliche of whatever you do is gonna come back and haunt you. No, the karmic seeds were basically first thoughts within your mind that would develop the reality around you, would come alive in a sense, define your environment. This is more of a higher cosmological idea to how thoughts and the cognitive function. We know we have the New Age philosophies that say we can create our world, but there's something deeper into it. So these karmic seeds, in a sense, are the same thing as sin for Jesus. It's your first thought. Your cognitive function is connecting with that core within you that is gonna lead to something which will have consequences. Jesus would see the sick people as having sinned, as being sinners. Something they did developed their circumstances around them. So for Jesus, they were sinners. And they had to go back into the core, into the Father, into that other realm he was always speaking about. But as I said in the last video, there were a couple of passages where he went deeper into this, and he gave us one of the main ideas for this judgment, one of the main passages where people get this quote-unquote judgment. And I'm gonna go ahead and read them. So he said, "You brood of vipers, how can you who are evil say anything good? For the mouth speaks what the heart is full of. A good man brings good things out of the good stored up in him, and an evil man brings evil things out of the evil stored up in him. And I tell you this, you must give an account on Judgment Day for every idle word you speak. The words you say will either acquit you or condemn you." Matthew 12:34-37. And there is another one where he goes a little bit deeper into this. It says, "But the things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart, and these defile them. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander." Matthew 15:18-19. Now he went on through these passages after people would start to judge him and to attack him for being a Satan worker, for being against the tradition of the church. Of course, he was introducing a new idea of connecting to God, a new idea, a new cosmological reality that was very against the traditional Jewish faith. This is why he was crucified at the end of the day. And like any new ideas that come forward from new understandings, it's going to have a lot of resistance. We see this today with Christianity and with all these religions that are outdated, and people still hold on to them, even though we have new information and new evidence to start creating a reality, a true outline of these things. But in any case, he was being attacked because he was against the traditional Jewish customs. And you can see in these passages that he is frustrated. He feels hurt that he was attacked. And when he calls them "you brood of vipers," he is reacting to it, and that's a very human aspect of Jesus. But this idea that every idle word you speak, it makes you wonder. Every idle word you speak will be judged, and you will either be acquitted or condemned. So how does God sees everything you do? What is the intelligence behind everything, every single action, every single word you say in a lifetime? Could you imagine how many words do you say in your lifetime? How many reactions you have? And as I said in the past video, now we have social media, we have all these things. Can you imagine all the little, altercations and fights you have with people? We live in a more interconnected world. We deal with more people than they would deal in their villages back then. So how does God keep track on every single encounter you have and every, because he is speaking about slander. He's speaking about being in conversation and attacking someone and making them feel bad like he felt in order to react with this idea of "you brood of vipers." He's speaking about that anger inside, about that negativity that is built up through all of these interactions. Well, today we have new research of near-death experiences, which shows some of the patterns that people relate in their experiences that are coming when they are coming back from the other side, to say. In one way, of course, a lot of people say, "Oh, this is only a hallucination," and so on. This is a topic for another day. But one of the main patterns and one of the things that repeat is what they call the judgment. They relate that whenever they go on the other side, and this happens in many different ways, but they see all of their life go through their eyes, just presented to them in a way. They relate that this phenomena happens very quickly, because in that other side there is no time, just like what people say when they are in different altered states of mind, like psychedelics, DMT, etc. So there's no time in this place, so they see everything like quickly. And the things that they say is that they relieve the situations, and these can be very stupid things and very, untranscendental occurrences or experiences they had with anyone and every person they've dealt with. And they say that they can relive the moment, relive what they felt, but also feel what the other person felt. So they say that when they made someone feel angry, when they made someone feel bad, perhaps in more extreme cases where, people's actions made someone else hurt themselves or worse or something like that, they felt what the other person felt. Now this raises a huge interrogation mark. What is it that we are dealing with? And that is very, very interesting, because Jesus said here, every idle word you speak, you will be acquitted or condemned in Judgment Day. Could it be that Jesus was speaking about this phenomena that happens after death? People who go through these experiences do not call this a judgment. They say that it is more like a life review, and while their experiences vary in details, they speak about entities being around them throughout this phenomena. And these entities are often helpful, they are quote-unquote loving entities that kind of ease them into the whole process. But this is a phenomena that is very, very current. Most NDEs have some sort of live review where they feel what others felt. Of course, this raises at least 100 questions, and I do address some of these in the third part of the outline, but what we have to arrive right away is to try to understand what we are speaking about. We are speaking about feeling what other people felt. Now, if we go back to some of the psychological ideas that people like Carl Jung had, where we are sharing the subconscious mind, and some of the Hindu philosophies where it is said that we are actually part of the same being. We are all one. Also going with the Buddhist idea that we are all somehow interconnected. If we read the words of Jesus, you can see that he was saying also this thing. You know, he said, I am in the Father, and the Father is in me, and I am in you, and you in me. He was speaking about this sort of pantheism in a way where the kingdom is not here, not there, is within and all around. He was speaking about this Father, this one entity, being an omnipresent being, the Alpha and the Omega. Now, if we try to dig deeper and go into some of the newly scientific evidence or theories that we have around, I'll go back to the 1900s, where the people who were studying quantum physics realized there was something very strange happening in our reality. They called some of these phenomena spooky science, quote unquote, and one of these things is called entanglement, where one particle can be tied to another particle somehow with some of that quote unquote spooky energy and react when one changes or reacts in a way. We also have the idea that the observer, the conscious mind, as I've spoken before in some other videos, has the chance to affect an experiment. So we are speaking about consciousness. Consciousness is all around us. Consciousness is what Jesus was referring to. This is something that we have got to start understanding, because this is what we are speaking about. How can these people who die and go through their life review feel what others are feeling? Well, this is only possible in a world where we are all sharing our mind, or at least a part of our minds, of our subconscious mind, of those emotions. We barely understand what emotions are, but we know that all of us have them, and they are pretty similar. It's not like your emotions are different from the emotions of someone else. If you hurt someone, you hurt someone. I mean, if someone hurts you, you're gonna be hurt. And it's the same emotion at the end of the day. So where do these emotions emanate, and how could I feel the emotions of another person in my life review? This is also something that could be explained by some of the new theories that suggest that we are living in a holographic reality, that the physical reality that we experience is somehow only the representation of the data that is somewhere else. The data being our mind, our emotions, it's somewhere else. And we are able to tap into this place and feel the emotions of others, as it seems. Perhaps this is what Jesus was speaking about when he was speaking about these other realms of spirit. etc. There are 100 questions this raises, and as I said, I will be addressing them in the third part of the outline, where I move myself away from religions and go into a more cosmological perspective of all of this. But the one question that I want to address in this video is that of morality. The whole thing about Jesus was that he was speaking about loving each other and do unto others what you would like to be done to you. And as he said here, every idle word will either acquit you or condemn you. He was speaking about this unity. He was speaking about this interconnectedness. So now, if we go to this cornerstone of Christianity, which is morality, is it all just be good because you have to be good? And is it true that if we are not good to each other and we hurt each other, we're gonna be doomed in hell? Not really. These people say that when they feel what others felt, and perhaps this was a negative situation, this was a lot of pain, sometimes people have driven each other to killing themselves, or worse. People come back from these experiences saying that they opened their eyes, they have changed. And if we look into some of the theories about spirituality, people say that we are in some sort of a school, some sort of a learning process. I'm thinking about this intelligence that created your body and created your physical reality and created all the processes that we know of and we have no participation in. It also created a process to die and to have all these life reviews and quote-unquote judgments, which can be something totally different from the dogmatic narrative, the Christian narrative that says if you don't do what God asks you to do, you're gonna go to hell. No, we're dealing with something much deeper and much more complex than that. And as I said before, and as I will expand upon further down the outline, this is why I am saying that theology, that social rules and social sciences are more tied to theology than something else, because it seems that what is happening is that this one consciousness created multiple consciousness, and these little consciousness are trying to figure out the best way to co-create together. This is what the garden is. This is what earth is. We are trying to co-create. We are trying to be individuals instead of that singular God that I've been speaking of. This is a higher cosmological understanding, a higher cosmological reality that goes beyond the outdated religions that we have right now. And if we allow ourselves to include a glimpse into what truly lies behind it all, and what is the purpose of this school, of feeling what others felt, of this morality, of why do we have to be good? Why do we have these emotions? Why do we feel good? Do we feel bad? Why do we have this sense of morality? Well, this is because perhaps we were meant to create something much, much higher than we have today, or we are in the process of creating what this singularity, this quote-unquote God, this Father, this whatever you want to call it, had envisioned in the first place. If you're on the path of finding the truth about reality and our purpose as humans on Earth, the information that I have to share concerns you. After a lifetime of research in philosophies ranging from Buddhism to the occult, I've encountered themes and patterns along some baffling information that is beginning to be seriously studied by science. Our Rational Divine Outline, The Ghost of Jesus, is the first iteration of this project, where I analyze the message of Jesus without dogmatism, fanaticism, or religious bias. You can find my work available on Amazon on the link below. If you find this work valuable, consider subscribing, sharing, and following me on social media, as it'll help others in the same path to find this information. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.